Savannah, Georgia. July 20th, 2012. Jamal Brooks took a landscaping job at an old estate in Savannah. The property had 12 garden statues scattered throughout, angels and goddesses covered in moss. One of them fell while his crew was moving it, cracked open on the pathway. Jamal looked inside the break. Not solid stone like he expected. Something else. A hollow space containing a concealed form, sealed in a clear casing, then covered with plaster. Police came, scanned the other 11 statues. All of them were the same. 12 missing women who had disappeared years ago. When detectives identified the first victim, they called Jamal over, showed him a missing person report with a photo. He stared at that face, and his world stopped. This is that story. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you what Jamal Brooks discovered in that garden. Savannah, Georgia. July 20th, 2012. Jamal Brooks wiped sweat from his forehead. 5th day on the job. 5th day working in this overgrown garden that looked like nobody had touched it in years. The Richardsons had hired him a week ago. Nice couple, retired, bought this massive estate, cheap because the previous owner died and the place had sat empty for over a year. 3 acres of gardens that had gone wild, weeds everywhere, pathways cracked, trees overhanging everything, and scattered throughout the property, 12 weathered stone statues, angels, Greek goddesses, nymphs, all covered in moss and vines. "Boss, we ready to move this one?" Terrence Johnson, his assistant, stood beside the largest statue. An angel, 6 feet tall, wings spread wide, face tilted toward heaven. "Yeah, pedestals cracked underneath. Gotta rebuild it before we can restore the statue properly." They'd already cleaned 5 of the 12 statues. This angel was number 6. The work was good. The Richardsons were paying well. Jamal needed this job. His landscaping business had been struggling. They positioned the furniture dolly beside the angel statue. Both men pushed, tilting the heavy figure onto the platform. Jamal guessed it weighed 400 pounds, maybe more. They strapped it down with bungee cords. "Careful with this one," Jamal said. "These statues are probably worth more than my truck." Terrence laughed. "Everything's worth more than your truck, boss." They started rolling the statue across the garden toward the workshop area on the east side of the property. The stone pathway was uneven. Years of oak tree roots had pushed up sections of the flagstone, made the surface bumpy and dangerous. Jamal pulled from the front. Terrence pushed from behind. The dolly wheels bounced over the raised stones. Then, it happened. One wheel caught on a particularly high section of flagstone. The dolly jerked hard, stopped suddenly. The statue tipped forward. Whoa! Jamal grabbed for it. His hands caught empty air. Terrence lunged from behind. "I got it. I got. Too heavy. Too much momentum." The angel fell. It seemed to happen in slow motion, the statue tipping, falling. Jamal's hands missing the wing by inches, the heavy stone figure hitting the pathway. Crack. The sound echoed across the garden. Birds scattered from nearby trees. "No." Jamal stood there, hands on his head. "No, no, no." They stared at the damage. A large section of the statue's torso had broken away, maybe a foot wide. The outer coating had shattered, revealing the interior. "Mr. Richardson isn't going to be happy," Terrence said quietly. Jamal knelt beside the broken statue. Examined the damage. Maybe they could fix it. Get some epoxy. Reattach the broken section. If they were lucky, the Richardsons might not even notice. He looked at the break more closely. Something was wrong. The interior wasn't solid stone like he'd expected. Instead, he saw some kind of clear material, thick, like a protective casing, translucent but not transparent. And inside the casing, something else, something unmistakably human. Jamal's heart started pounding. He pulled out his phone, turned on the flashlight, shined it into the crack. The light revealed what his mind didn't want to accept. A person, concealed within the statue. hidden away in the dark, preserved in time. Not a skeleton, but an intact figure, and emerging from the crack, unmistakable. Human hair. Long. Dark brown. "Boss?" Terrence's voice was shaky. He'd moved closer, seen what Jamal was seeing. "Boss, what is that?" Jamal's hands shook. He knew exactly what it was. He fumbled for his phone, fingers barely working, dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? Jamal's voice came out strangled. "I need police. And a medical examiner. There's someone inside this statue. A person." The police arrived within 15 minutes. Detective Andre Williams was first on scene, 46 years old, Savannah PD homicide, 20 years on the force, seen a lot of things, but this was new. He knelt beside the broken statue, examined it with his flashlight, saw exactly what Jamal had seen. The casing, the concealed figure, the hair. "Don't touch anything else," he told Jamal and Terrence. "Medical examiner's on her way." Jamal and Terrence stood back, watching. Neither could look away. More police arrived. Crime scene tape went up. The Richardsons came out of the house, confused and frightened. Andre sent them back inside. Dr. Lisa Williams arrived 10 minutes later. Medical examiner. 50 years old, calm and professional. She'd seen worse, but not by much. She carefully removed more of the outer coating with tools from her kit. Slowly, methodically, documenting everything with photos. What she revealed made everyone on scene go quiet. A preserved human body, female, black woman. The body was intact, hair still attached. Body positioned exactly like the angel statue. Arms raised above the head, face tilted back. The body was encased in a thick, clear material, then covered with a stone-like plaster coating, painted gray to look like weathered garden statuary. "My God," Andre whispered. Dr. Williams took samples, made notes. Her voice was clinical, professional. "This person has been here for years. Decades, possibly. The method is sophisticated, professional grade. The casing prevented discovery. Then the plaster shell protected it from the elements. Whoever did this had significant expertise." Jamal felt sick. He'd been working around this statue for 5 days, had cleaned moss off it, trimmed hedges around its base, even touched it, never knowing there was a missing woman inside. Andre stood, looked around the garden, at the other 11 statues scattered across the 3-acre property, all similar style, all from the same time period, all with the same weathered, moss-covered appearance. "We need to check every statue on this property," he said quietly. Jamal's blood ran cold. "You think there are more? I hope not. But we need to be sure." By evening, the entire estate was a crime scene. Yellow tape everywhere. Forensic units, mobile command center, and scanning equipment brought in from the state crime lab. A technician set up a portable scanner, industrial grade, powerful enough to see through stone and plaster. They started with the nearest statue, a Greek goddess, 6 feet tall, graceful pose. The scan image appeared on the screen. Everyone leaned in, stared, clear as day, a human structure inside the statue. "Oh no," the technician whispered. They moved to the next statue, a nymph holding flowers. The scan revealed the same thing. Another person inside. 3rd statue. Same result. 4th, 5th, 6th. Jamal watched the technician's face get paler with each result, watched other officers react, some turning away. 7, 8, 9, the count kept climbing. 10, 11, 12. Dr. Williams looked at Andre. Her voice was steady, but Jamal could hear the strain. All 12 statues contain human remains, all female based on structure. All appear to be adults, all concealed the same way and positioned to match the statue designs. Andre's jaw clenched. 12 victims, 12 missing women, all hidden and displayed as garden art for years. Jamal had to sit down. His legs wouldn't hold him anymore. He collapsed onto the grass, head in his hands. 12 women. Someone had taken 12 women, concealed them, turned them into statues, displayed them in this garden, and Jamal had been working around them, touching them, cleaning them, admiring the beautiful craftsmanship. For 5 days, he felt overwhelmed with nausea. Over the next 3 days, forensics carefully recovered the victims from the statues. It was delicate work. Dr. Williams and her team had to remove the plaster coating without disturbing the evidence inside. Each statue was a crime scene. Each recovery was solemn. Jamal couldn't leave. He told the Richardsons he was sorry, but he had to stay. Had to see this through. Felt responsible somehow, like he owed these women something for walking past them, for not knowing. The Richardsons understood. They'd already decided to sell the property. Couldn't live here after this. Couldn't sleep knowing what had been in their garden. Detective Andre kept Jamal updated. The victims were being identified through records and DNA. All appeared to be African American women, all between ages 24 and 35 at the time of their disappearance. All had been gone for years, some for decades. On the 3rd day, Andre called Jamal over to the mobile command center. A trailer parked on the driveway. Inside, computers, files, evidence boards. Mr. Brooks, we've identified the first victim. The one from the angel statue that you broke open. I need to ask if you recognize this name. Andre showed him a missing person report. The paper was faded, old, dated from 1995. The photo attached showed a young woman, 28 years old. Beautiful smile, professional headshot, confident, successful. Name, Kiara Thompson. Age, 28. Disappeared, the 12th of August, 1995. Last seen, charity fundraiser, Caldwell Estate. Jamal's world stopped. The noise of the crime scene faded. His vision tunneled. All he could see was that photo, that name, Kiara Thompson, his niece, Patrick's daughter. Memories flooded back. Kiara, at 10 years old. 1987. Family barbecue at Patrick's house. Little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile running toward him. Uncle Jay, push me on the swing. Jamal had been 17, annoyed at being stuck babysitting. Kiara, I'm trying to eat. Please, just for a little bit. He'd complained. Made a big show of it. But he'd pushed her on that swing for an hour. Listened to her talk about school, about her friends, about wanting to be a scientist when she grew up. Another memory. Kiara at 17, 1994. Just gotten her acceptance letter to Spelman College. The whole family gathered to celebrate. First person in their family to go to college. Patrick, so proud. Crying, wife crying happy tears. Kiara in the middle of it all. Glowing, hugging everyone. She'd hugged Jamal tight. Uncle Jay, I did it. I'm going to college. I'm proud of you, kid. You're going to change the world. I am. I really am. Last memory. The one that hurt most. Kiara at 28. Week before she disappeared. August 1995. They'd met for coffee. Jamal was 21. Just starting his landscaping business. Kiara was excited about her new job. Marketing consultant. Good money. Making a difference. I'm going to this charity event this weekend, she'd said. Big networking opportunity. All the important people in Savannah will be there. That's great. You'll do great. I'm going to change the world, Uncle Jay, one campaign at a time. She'd been so alive, so full of dreams, so ready to make her mark. And then she was gone, disappeared after that charity event. Never came home, car found abandoned, no clues, no evidence of foul play. Police investigated for 2 weeks, then closed the case. Said she probably just left town. Young people did that sometimes. Fresh starts. Patrick never believed it. Spent years searching. Filed reports. Hired investigators. Demanded answers. And then Patrick's wife died. 2003. Heart failure. But really it was grief. Broken heart. She died not knowing what happened to her daughter. Patrick searched alone after that. For 9 more years. Pushed everyone away, including Jamal. Stopped returning calls, stopped answering the door. Jamal tried for a while, called every week, showed up at the house. Patrick never answered. Eventually, Jamal stopped trying, and now this. Now Jamal knew where Kiara had been. What happened to her? She'd been here, in this garden, concealed inside an angel statue, displayed publicly for 17 years while her family searched desperately, while her mother died of grief, while her father searched alone, and Jamal was the one who found her, the one who broke open the statue, the one who exposed the truth to the world. Mr. Brooks, do you recognize the name? Jamal's legs gave out. He collapsed. Detective Andre caught him, lowered him into a chair. Jamal started crying, couldn't stop, couldn't breathe. "That's my niece," he managed to say. "That's my brother's daughter. Oh God, I have to tell Patrick." Jamal sat in his truck for 20 minutes before he could drive. Patrick's house was in a working-class neighborhood, same small house where they'd grown up. Their father had bought it in 1975. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, tiny backyard, but it was theirs. Patrick had inherited it when their parents died. He and his wife had raised Kiara there. Jamal hadn't been to this house in 9 years, not since Patrick's wife's funeral. He sat in his truck, engine off, staring at the house. "How do you tell your brother you found his daughter? That she's been gone for 17 years? That someone turned her into a garden statue?" Memories flooded back. Him and Patrick as kids. Patrick was 14 years older, more like a second father than a brother. Taught Jamal to ride a bike, helped with homework, scared off bullies. They'd been close once, before Kiara disappeared, before grief tore the family apart. After Kiara vanished, Patrick became obsessed, searching, investigating, convinced Caldwell was involved but unable to prove it. Police wouldn't listen. Said he was a grieving father seeing conspiracy where there was none. Then his wife died. And Patrick shut down completely, locked himself away from the world, from family, from Jamal. Jamal had tried. God, he'd tried. Called every week for a year, showed up at the house every month, knocked on the door. "Patrick, it's me. Please, let me help you." Patrick never answered, never opened the door. Eventually, Jamal stopped trying. What else could he do? You can't help someone who won't let you in. But now he had to try again. Jamal got out of the truck, walked to the door, knocked. Nothing. Knocked again. Harder. The door opened. Patrick stood there, 52 years old, 14 years older than Jamal, but looking 20 years older. Gray hair, deep lines in his face, tired eyes that had cried too many tears and seen too much pain. He stared at Jamal. Didn't seem to recognize him at first. Then his eyes widened. "Jamal? Hey, Patrick. What? What are you doing here?" Jamal's throat closed, could barely speak. "Patrick, I need to tell you something. About Kiara." Patrick's entire body went rigid. Color drained from his face. He gripped the doorframe to stay standing. "You found her." Not a question. A statement. Like somewhere deep inside, he'd always known this day would come. Jamal nodded. Couldn't speak. Patrick stepped aside. "Come in." The inside of the house looked exactly the same. Frozen in time. Photos of Kiara everywhere. On the walls, on every table, on the mantle. School pictures, graduation photos, awards, certificates. A shrine to a daughter who never came home. The living room, the kitchen, the hallway. All Kiara. They sat at the kitchen table. Same table where they'd eaten family dinners as kids. Where Kiara had done her homework. Where the family had gathered to celebrate her college acceptance. "Tell me," Patrick said. His voice was flat, empty, like he'd prepared himself for this moment for 17 years. Jamal told him everything. The landscaping job, the Caldwell estate, the 12 statues throughout the garden, moving the angel statue, the dolly tipping, the statue falling and breaking open, what he'd seen inside, the casing, the concealed figure, the hair, the police, the scans, all 12 statues containing victims, the identification, records, DNA, Kiara Thompson, age 28, disappeared August 12, 1995. She'd been inside that angel statue, hidden, displayed in Preston Caldwell's garden for 17 years. Patrick didn't cry, didn't scream, just sat there, hands folded on the table, staring at nothing. After a long time, he spoke. "Where is she now?" "Police station. With the authorities." Patrick stood. "Take me to her." In the truck, they drove in silence. Jamal didn't know what to say. There was nothing to say. Finally, Patrick spoke. His hands were shaking, voice barely above a whisper. "Your sister-in-law died never knowing what happened. 2003, heart failure," they said. But it was grief. Broke her heart not knowing where our baby girl was. He stared out the window. "I searched alone for 9 years after that. Every single day. Called police every week. Filed new missing person reports every month. Hired private investigators I couldn't afford. Everyone told me to let it go. That Kiara was gone. That I needed to move on." Patrick turned to look at Jamal. "But I knew. A father knows. She wouldn't just leave. Something happened to her. Something bad." He paused. "I tried to investigate Caldwell back in '95, right after she disappeared. I knew she was at his estate that night. Knew she never came home. Knew something was wrong. But Caldwell was rich, connected, had lawyers. Police told me to stop bothering him. Said I was a grieving father who wasn't thinking clearly. They shut me down." Patrick's voice broke. "If they'd listened to me. If they'd investigated Caldwell properly back then. Maybe they would have found her. Found all of them. Maybe some of those women would still be alive." Jamal's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Patrick, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have been there for you. Should have tried harder to." "Not your fault. I pushed you away. Pushed everyone away. Was drowning in grief and didn't want anyone to save me. That's on me." He looked at Jamal. "But you found her. After 17 years, you found her. By accident, working a landscaping job. And now we finish this together. We find out who helped Caldwell. We get justice for Kiara. For all 12 of those women." Jamal nodded. Throat too tight to speak. "Together," Patrick said. "Like we should have been all along. Together," Jamal managed. "Like brothers." The Savannah Police Department was chaos. Media had gotten wind of the story. 12 bodies found in garden statues. Reporters everywhere. Cameras. Vans with satellite dishes. Detective Andre got Patrick and Jamal in through a back entrance. Led them to his office. Files spread across the desk. Photos. Reports. Evidence bags. "We've identified 3 more victims so far," Andre said. "Still working on the others. But all 12 have similar patterns. All disappeared from the Savannah area. All between 1992 and 2005. All cases went cold." He pulled out files. Started showing them. Maya Johnson, age 26, disappeared January 1992. Real estate agent. Alexis Porter, age 31, disappeared November 1993. Attorney. Sasha Edwards, age 25, disappeared June 1994. Teacher. Every file was the same. Professional black woman, educated, successful, disappeared. Case investigated briefly, then closed. Andre showed them Kiara's file. Thick, worn, heavily annotated. "Your daughter attended a charity fundraiser at the Caldwell estate. August 10th, 1995. Event was for the local hospital. She was there to network, make professional connections. She was supposed to come home that night. Never did." Patrick's voice was hollow. "She was a marketing consultant, 28 years old, building her career. So proud of her. First person in our family to graduate college. Police investigated," Andre continued. "Found her car abandoned 2 miles from the estate. No signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play. The detective at the time concluded she probably left town voluntarily. Case went cold after 6 months." Patrick's hands clenched into fists. "I told them she wouldn't just leave. I told them something happened at that estate. Tried to investigate Caldwell myself. But he was rich, connected, had lawyers. Police told me to stop. Said I was bothering an important community member. Said I was grieving and not thinking clearly. They were wrong," Andre said. "You were right. And I'm sorry the system failed you, failed your daughter, failed all these families. Jamal looked at the photos spread across the desk. All the victims, all professional black women in their 20s and 30s, all had disappeared after attending events at the Caldwell estate. Who was Caldwell? Jamal asked. Andre pulled up information on his computer, turned the screen so they could see. Preston Caldwell, real estate developer, made his fortune in the 1980s buying and flipping properties during the market boom. Built the estate in question in 1985. Never married, no children. Died March 2011. Stroke. Age 69. He's dead? Patrick's voice was sharp, angry. The man who took my daughter is already dead? Yes, but someone helped him. Had to. These statues required maintenance. The gardens needed care. Someone was taking care of those statues, watering the gardens, keeping them displayed properly. For years, someone else was involved. Jamal leaned forward. Employment records. Who worked for Caldwell? Already looking into that, Andre said. 2 days later, Andre called them. Found something. Employment records from Caldwell's estate. One name appears consistently. Employed from 1988 to 2011. 23 years. Who? Patrick demanded. Miguel Santos, groundskeeper and general maintenance worker. Still lives in Savannah, South Side. I'm going to bring him in for questioning. We're coming with you, Patrick said. That's not protocol. I don't care about protocol. That man knows what happened to my daughter. I'm coming. Andre looked at Jamal. Jamal nodded. I'm with my brother. They drove to Miguel Santos's apartment building. 3rd floor of a rundown complex. Paint peeling. Smell of mildew in the stairwell. Andre knocked on the door. Mr. Santos? Savannah Police. We need to ask you some questions about Preston Caldwell. The door opened slowly. Miguel Santos stood there. 58 years old. Thin, gray hair. Worn face, showing years of hard labor. Immigrant from El Salvador, based on his accent. He saw Andre's badge. Then his eyes moved to Patrick and Jamal behind him, and Miguel Santos started crying. I'm so sorry, he said in heavily accented English, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry. I couldn't stop him. Patrick stepped forward, voice deadly calm, more frightening than if he'd been yelling. You knew my daughter was in that garden. Miguel collapsed against the doorframe, sobbing. He made me. Caldwell. He threatened to kill my family, to have me deported. I had no choice. You always have a choice, Jamal said. His voice was cold, hard. You could have called police, could have reported him, could have saved those women. I'll tell you everything, Miguel whispered. Everything. Please. I couldn't live with it anymore. I can't sleep, can't eat. I see their faces every night. I'll tell you everything. Andre stepped in. Professional. Get dressed, Mr. Santos. You're coming to the station. At the police station, Miguel Santos confessed to everything. Patrick and Jamal sat in the observation room, watching through one-way glass, as Miguel broke down, as he told the whole story, every detail. I started working for Mr. Caldwell in 1988, Miguel said, hands shaking on the table. Good job. He paid well, better than other employers. I sent money home to my family in El Salvador. My mother, my sisters, they depended on me. When did it start? Andre asked from across the table. October 1992. He called me to the house late at night. Emergency, he said. I went immediately. He was a good employer. I trusted him. Miguel's voice dropped. There was a woman in the house, deceased. I don't know what happened to her. Mr. Caldwell said there was an accident, that she fell. He told me I needed to help him. What did you do? I said we should call police. But Mr. Caldwell said no. He told me. Miguel's voice broke. He told me I was an illegal immigrant, that if police came, I would be deported. My family would lose everything. He said if I helped him, he would protect me, give me more money. take care of everything. But if I refused, he would call immigration himself, report me, destroy my family. Patrick's fists clenched in the observation room. Jamal put a hand on his brother's shoulder. Miguel continued, I had no choice. I needed the job, needed the money. My family depended on me. So I helped him hide the body in his workshop in the basement. He had equipment there, chemicals, supplies. I watched him process the body, conceal it, create a casing. It took days. Then he built the statue around her, used plaster, painted it to look like stone, like garden art. And you said nothing. He threatened me constantly. Said my family in El Salvador would die if I talked. Said he had connections there, people who would hurt them. I was trapped, completely trapped. This happened 11 more times? Miguel nodded, crying. 12 women total. Over 13 years. Different women, but same pattern. He would host parties at the estate, charity events, fundraisers. He would meet women there. Professional women, educated women. They would disappear. Days later, weeks later, he would call me, tell me there was another accident, and I would help him conceal them, help him create another statue, display it in the garden. You maintained those statues. Yes, I watered the gardens around them, installed new pedestals when the old ones cracked, cleaned moss off them, trimmed hedges, made sure they looked beautiful. Every single day I looked at those statues. Every single day I knew who was inside them. Every single day I wanted to tell someone. But every single day he reminded me what would happen if I did. Miguel looked up, directly at the mirror, like he could see Patrick and Jamal watching. I remember them all. I remember their faces, from the parties. They would talk to me, be kind to me, ask about my work, about my family. His voice broke. Your daughter, Kiara Thompson. I remember her. At the party, August 1995. She was kind to me. Asked if I had children. Asked about my family back home. She was a good person, a really good person. Miguel sobbed. And 2 days later, Mr. Caldwell called me to the house. She was gone. And I helped him hide her in a statue. I helped her disappear by staying silent. I helped them all disappear by staying silent. In the observation room, Patrick lunged for the door. Jamal grabbed him, held him back. Patrick, don't. He let my daughter stay in that garden for 17 years. Patrick was screaming, struggling. My wife died never knowing what happened. He could have stopped it. He could have called police after the first one. He could have saved the other 11. Andre came into the observation room, helped Jamal restrain Patrick. Mr. Thompson, I understand your anger, but if you go in there, you'll be arrested, and you won't get justice for your daughter. Stay here. Let me handle this. Patrick collapsed into a chair, sobbing, the sound of a father's grief filling the small room. Jamal knelt beside his brother, put his arms around him, both men crying, holding each other, brothers united in pain. Over the next week, Detective Andre pieced together Preston Caldwell's entire operation. The pattern was consistent, methodical, calculated. Caldwell had hosted charity events specifically to meet potential victims, 4 to 6 events per year, all high profile, all attracting successful, professional people, all at his estate where he had complete control. He targeted black women specifically. Educated, ages 25 to 35, independent, ambitious, professional. According to Miguel's testimony and evidence found at the estate, Caldwell would target them during the parties, wait until other guests left, then attack the victims in the private quarters of his mansion. The exact method of the crimes was unclear. Miguel was always called after the fact, but Dr. Williams found evidence of harm on several victims. Then came the concealment process. Caldwell had studied preservation methods extensively. Police found books in his library, chemical receipts, equipment purchases, all legal, bought under the guise of art projects. Caldwell was known in the community as an art collector. No one questioned his purchases. He would use preservation techniques to keep the bodies intact, position them in specific poses, encase them in thick, clear material. The material created a sealed environment. Then he would build custom plaster shells around the forms, paint them to look like weathered stone, add details, make them look like professional garden statuary. The entire process took weeks for each statue. Miguel was forced to assist, to help move everything, to mix materials under Caldwell's direction, to help apply the plaster coating, to install the finished statues in the garden. Why did Caldwell target black professional women specifically? Police found journals in Caldwell's estate, hidden in a safe in his bedroom. Years of entries, dating back to 1992. Patrick and Jamal read them in Andre's office, felt sick with every page. Caldwell had written extensively about his collection, about preserving beauty, about conquering success. One entry from August 10th, 1995, made Patrick's hands shake. Met the perfect subject tonight. K.T. Age 28. Marketing consultant. Intelligence in her eyes, ambition in her voice, beauty that would fade with time, success that would make her arrogant. I will keep her at this perfect moment. She will be my angel, my greatest work. Another entry from August 12th, 1995. Angel completed. Positioned in West Garden near the oak trees. Already I can see she fits perfectly. At tomorrow's garden party, guests will admire her. They will compliment my taste in art. They will have no idea they're admiring my greatest achievement. She will never age, never fade, never become less than what she was at her peak. Perfect, forever. Patrick threw the journal across the room. He displayed my daughter like a decoration, like art. For 16 years, people walked past her, admired the beautiful statue, complimented Caldwell's taste, and nobody knew. Nobody had any idea. Jamal picked up another journal, found an entry that made his blood run cold. Hired Brooks Landscaping to restore the gardens. September 2010. Worker named Jamal Brooks did excellent work, cleaned the statues beautifully, removed all the moss, made my collection shine. He had no idea what he was polishing, no idea he was admiring my greatest works. The irony is delicious. Jamal's hand started shaking. Patrick, I worked here before. 2 years before Caldwell died, I cleaned these statues. I worked around Kiara, and I didn't know. I touched that angel statue, admired the craftsmanship. Caldwell watched me do it and knew who was inside. Patrick looked at his brother, saw the horror on Jamal's face. Not your fault. You couldn't have known, but I was there. I was right there. If I'd somehow known, if I'd figured it out. You couldn't have. None of us could have. Caldwell was careful, clever, evil, but he's dead now, and we're going to make sure everyone knows what he did. Make sure Kiara and all these women are remembered, not as his victims, as people, as our daughters, our sisters, our family. The district attorney charged Miguel Santos with 12 counts of accessory, obstruction of justice, concealment of human remains, conspiracy. The news coverage was relentless. National media picked up the story. 12 bodies in garden statues. 17 years hidden in plain sight. A wealthy white man targeting successful black women. Patrick and Jamal found themselves at the center of a storm. But instead of hiding, Patrick decided to speak up, to make sure the 12 women were remembered correctly. He contacted all 12 families, one by one, introduced himself, told them about Kiara, listened to their stories. Every family had the same experience. Police investigations that went nowhere, cases that went cold, being told their daughters probably just left town, that they were overreacting. Patrick organized meetings, brought all 12 families together, created a support group. They met weekly, shared memories of their daughters, shared their grief, their rage, their pain, and they supported each other, helped each other through the coming trial, through the media attention, through the process of finally laying their daughters to rest. Jamal helped Patrick organize everything, coordinate schedules, provide transportation, whatever was needed. Brothers working together, united by tragedy but refusing to let it break them. 2 weeks after Miguel's arrest, Patrick called a press conference. All 12 families stood with him. Jamal stood behind his brother, hand on Patrick's shoulder, supporting him. Patrick's voice shook but held firm as he spoke to the assembled media. 12 black women disappeared from Savannah over 13 years. 12 families filed missing person reports. 12 times, police investigated briefly then closed the cases. 12 times, we were told our daughters probably just left town, that they wanted fresh starts, that they made choices to leave their families behind. Patrick paused, gathered strength from the families around him. But they didn't leave. They were taken by a wealthy white man who turned them into garden decorations, who displayed them publicly while their families searched desperately, while their mothers died of broken hearts, while their fathers spent every penny hiring investigators that police wouldn't hire. He looked directly at the cameras. This system failed our daughters, failed our families, because our daughters were black, because the suspect was rich and white, because society didn't value our daughters' lives enough to investigate thoroughly, to push harder, to care enough. Patrick's voice broke. My wife died in 2003, 8 years after our daughter disappeared, died of grief and unanswered questions. If police had listened to me back in 1995, if they had taken my concerns about Preston Caldwell seriously, if they had investigated him instead of telling me to stop bothering him, maybe my daughter would still be alive. Maybe some of these 12 women would still be alive. Maybe my wife would still be here. He gestured to Jamal. My younger brother found my daughter by accident. 17 years after police stopped looking, he was doing a landscaping job. A statue fell, cracked open, and there she was, our Kiara. Patrick's eyes filled with tears, but his voice strengthened. But we're not going to let this break us. These 12 families were supporting each other now. We're making sure our daughters are remembered, making sure their names are known, making sure their stories are told, making sure they're not just victims. They were people. Brilliant, beautiful, successful, loved, and they deserved better. They deserved a system that cared enough to find them, to save them, to bring them home. Other family members stepped forward, one by one, telling their stories. The media listened. Finally, the community was moved. Protests at the police station, demands for reform. The mayor was forced to address the systemic failures that allowed Caldwell to operate for 13 years. After the press conference, the families gathered together, holding each other, supporting each other, united by tragedy but refusing to be destroyed by it. Patrick and Jamal stood to the side, watching, brothers together again after years apart. We're going to get through this, Patrick said quietly. Together. Jamal nodded, put his arm around his brother's shoulders. Together, like we should have been all along. Miguel Santos's trial began in November 2012. Patrick and Jamal attended every single day, sat in the front row with the other families, all 12 families, supporting each other, bearing witness. Miguel pleaded guilty to all charges. His public defender argued that Miguel was a victim too, coerced, threatened, trapped by his immigration status and Caldwell's threats against his family. The defense presented evidence. Letters Caldwell had sent Miguel over the years. Explicit threats. Photos of Miguel's family in El Salvador that Caldwell had somehow obtained. Addresses. Names. Proof that Caldwell had people watching them. An expert witness testified about coercion and duress, about how immigrants are especially vulnerable to threats, about the power dynamic between a wealthy employer and an undocumented worker, about how that creates impossible situations where victims feel they have no choice. But the prosecution argued that Miguel had opportunities to report Caldwell, that he could have called police anonymously, that he could have reached out to immigrant advocacy groups, that he could have found help, that instead, he chose to participate for 20 years. They showed photos of Miguel maintaining the statues, year after year, watering the gardens around them, installing new pedestals, cleaning moss off the statues, trimming hedges, making sure Caldwell's collection looked beautiful. The prosecution argued that Miguel became complicit, that his actions went beyond forced labor under duress, that he enabled 12 tragedies, that his silence doomed those women as surely as if he'd harmed them himself. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Verdict: guilty on all counts. But the jury recommended lenient sentencing due to the evidence of coercion and threats. The judge gave his ruling, acknowledged that Miguel's situation was complicated, that the threats were real, that the power dynamic was severe, but said that Miguel's silence enabled 12 crimes, that 12 families deserved justice, that the lost deserve justice. Sentence: 15 years in federal prison. Eligible for parole after 7 years. Miguel was led away in handcuffs. He looked back at the families, mouthing "I'm sorry" over and over, tears streaming down his face. Patrick sat still, face blank. Jamal couldn't read his expression. After the courtroom emptied, Jamal asked quietly, "How do you feel?" Patrick was silent for a long time. Then, "I don't know," Miguel punished. "But it doesn't bring her back. Doesn't undo 17 years of not knowing. Doesn't bring back my wife. Doesn't give Kiara her life back. No, it doesn't. But it's something. It's more than some families ever get. Caldwell's dead. Can't face justice. But Miguel will spend years in prison. That's something." Jamal nodded, put his hand on his brother's shoulder. "It's something." They sat in the empty courtroom. Brothers, united by tragedy, supporting each other through the aftermath. 2 months later, December 2012, finally, they could lay Kiara to rest properly, give her the funeral she deserved, 17 years after her disappearance. All 12 families held funerals during the same week, supporting each other, attending each other's services, united in grief and healing. Kiara's funeral was at the church where she'd been baptized as a baby, small Baptist church in the heart of the Black community. The same church where Patrick and his wife had gotten married, where they'd celebrated Kiara's first communion. Hundreds of people attended. The church was packed, community showing up to support the family, to honor Kiara, to bear witness. Patrick had asked Jamal to give the eulogy. Jamal had tried to refuse, didn't think he could get through it. But Patrick insisted. "You're her uncle. You found her. You brought her home. It should be you." So Jamal stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, looking at the closed white casket covered in roses, looking at his brother in the front pew, tears already streaming down his face. Jamal's hands shook, but he spoke. "Kiara Thompson was 10 years old when I was 21. She followed me everywhere at family gatherings, called me Uncle Jay, made me push her on swings for hours, made me play tea party with her dolls. I complained about it then. God, I complained. Told my friends I was stuck babysitting. Now I'd give anything to do it again. To push her on that swing one more time, to sit at that tiny table and pretend to drink tea one more time." His voice strengthened. "She grew up smart. Brilliant, actually. Beautiful inside and out. First person in our family to graduate college. Spelman College. She was so proud. We were all so proud. She had dreams, big dreams. Wanted to change the world through marketing, through campaigns that would give voice to people who weren't being heard." Jamal looked at Patrick. "Last time I saw her alive, it was the week before she disappeared. We met for coffee. She told me about her new job, about the networking event she was going to that weekend, about all the ways she was going to make a difference. She said, 'I'm going to change the world, Uncle Jay. One campaign at a time.' And I believed her. We all believed her." His voice broke. Preston Caldwell stole that. Stole her future, stole her dreams, stole the world-changing work she would have done, turned her into an object, into a decoration in his garden. But he didn't steal her memory. He didn't steal our love for her. He didn't steal who she was. Jamal gripped the podium. "Kiara Thompson was brilliant. She was kind. She was ambitious. She was loving. She was our family. She was someone's daughter, someone's niece, someone's friend. She was a person who mattered, who had value, who deserved to live, who deserved to achieve her dreams. Tears ran down his face. And she always will be. Not Caldwell's victim, not a statistic, not a statue. She'll always be Kiara, our Kiara. And we'll make sure she's remembered that way. We'll make sure her story is told. We'll make sure her name lives on. Because that's what family does. We remember, we honor, we love, forever. Patrick broke down, sobbing. Friends and family surrounded him, holding him, supporting him. At the graveside, they lowered Kiara's casket into the ground, into the plot next to her mother. Finally, they could be together again. Patrick knelt at the edge of the grave, whispered, "I'm sorry I took so long to find you, baby girl. I'm so sorry, but you're home now. You and your mama are together. And I promise I'll visit. I promise I'll remember. I promise I'll make sure the world knows who you were." Jamal knelt beside his brother, arms around him, both men crying, brothers united in grief. As the first shovel of dirt hit the casket, Jamal whispered, "She knows, Patrick. She knows you never stopped looking. She knows you never gave up. She knows you love her." Patrick nodded, unable to speak, just holding on to his brother and crying for the daughter he'd lost, the wife he'd lost, the 17 years of not knowing, the pain that would never fully heal. But at least now, he could grieve properly. At least now, Kiara was home. Months passed after the trial and funerals. Jamal tried to go back to work, tried to continue his landscaping business. But he couldn't. Every garden triggered him. Every statue made him anxious. He'd be working at a client's house, see a garden statue, and have a full panic attack. Couldn't breathe, couldn't function. One day, he was working at a wealthy estate, trimming hedges, cleaning flower beds. There was a stone angel in the garden, 6 feet tall, wings spread, face tilted toward heaven, just like the one at Caldwell's estate. Jamal froze, heart pounding, vision narrowing. He dropped his tools, started hyperventilating. Terrence found him collapsed on the ground, drove him home. That night, Jamal told his wife Candace that he couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't work in gardens, couldn't look at statues, couldn't continue the business he'd built. Candace was a teacher, understanding, patient. "Then don't. We'll figure it out. Your mental health is more important than money. But the business, everything I built, can be rebuilt later. When you're ready. If you're ever ready. Right now, you need to heal." So Jamal closed his landscaping business, sold his equipment, had a final conversation with Terrence. "I'm sorry, man. I just can't do this anymore." Terrence understood. He'd been there that day, seen what was inside that statue. He got a job with another landscaping company, told Jamal to call any time if he needed anything. For months, Jamal struggled, financially, emotionally, felt like he was failing, felt guilty that Candace was supporting them both on a teacher's salary, felt lost without his business, without purpose. Then Patrick called him. "I started something, a nonprofit, missing persons family advocacy, helping other families navigate the system when their loved ones disappear, teaching them how to push police, how to keep cases active. I need help. Would you consider partnering with me?" Jamal didn't hesitate. "Yes. When do I start?" Working with Patrick gave Jamal purpose again, meaning. They met with families whose loved ones had disappeared, taught them the lessons Patrick had learned over 17 years of searching, how to file reports, how to push for investigations, how to hire good investigators, how to never give up. They met with legislators, pushed for reform, better protocols when Black women went missing, mandatory follow-up investigations, funding for cold case units. The 12 families stayed connected, met every week, support group that became family. They celebrated birthdays of daughters who would never age, mourned anniversaries of disappearances, supported each other through the ongoing healing process. Jamal visited Patrick every Sunday. They'd have breakfast together, talk about Kiara, about the work they were doing, about healing and moving forward. Their relationship had become closer than it had ever been, closer even than when they were kids. Tragedy had torn them apart once. After Kiara disappeared, after Patrick's wife died, Patrick's isolation, his grief consuming him, years of no contact. But this tragedy brought them back together, united them, gave them common purpose. Jamal wished desperately that it could have been different, that Kiara was still alive, that his sister-in-law hadn't died, that Patrick hadn't suffered for 17 years. But he was grateful to have his brother back, grateful to be working together, grateful to be making a difference for other families. Sometimes good things come from terrible tragedies. Not replacing what was lost. Nothing could ever do that. But creating something meaningful from the pain, something that honors the dead by helping the living. 5 years later, July 20th, 2017, 5th anniversary of the discovery, Patrick and Jamal stood in what was once Preston Caldwell's garden. But it didn't belong to Caldwell anymore. It belonged to the community now, to the families, to the memory of 12 women who deserved better. The estate had been sold again after the Richardsons couldn't bear to live there. The new owners, recognizing what the property represented, had demolished the mansion, donated the land to the city of Savannah. Now, it was a memorial park, officially named the Garden of Remembrance. Where 12 stone statues once stood, 12 granite monuments now rose from the earth. Each monument bore a victim's name, her photo, her story, her dreams, what she'd wanted to achieve in life. Kiara Marie Thompson 1000, 967 to 1000, 995 beloved daughter, marketing professional, dream chaser, she wanted to change the world. Patrick visited every Sunday, without fail, brought yellow roses, Kiara's favorite flower, talked to his daughter about his week, about the families he'd helped, about her uncle Jamal, about keeping her memory alive. Jamal came with him every time. They'd bring flowers together, stand together, remember together. Today was special, 5th anniversary. All 12 families had gathered, maybe 50 people, mothers, fathers, siblings, children who'd lost mothers before they were born, all united by tragedy but refusing to be defined by it. The city of Savannah had organized a memorial service. The mayor spoke about learning from the past, about doing better. The police chief spoke about reforms implemented, about never letting something like this happen again. But then Patrick stepped forward, asked to speak. Jamal stood beside his brother, hand on his shoulder, supporting him. Patrick's voice was stronger now, steadier. 5 years of therapy, 5 years of support groups, 5 years of slowly healing. The pain would never go away, but it had become bearable. 5 years ago, Patrick began, my brother Jamal found my daughter, found all our daughters. He gestured to the monuments around them. It broke us, shattered us into pieces. We didn't know how we'd survive, how we'd keep going, how we'd ever feel whole again. Patrick looked at the gathered families, some crying, some holding each other, all listening. But we did survive, we did keep going, because we had each other, because we refused to let Preston Caldwell's evil destroy us completely, because we chose to honor our daughters by living, by fighting, by making sure they're remembered properly. His voice strengthened. Preston Caldwell died before he could face justice. That hurts. That feels deeply wrong. Miguel Santos is in prison, serving his sentence. But that doesn't heal the wound, doesn't bring our daughters back, doesn't give us back the years we lost. What heals is this. Us, these families, this memorial, this community. Making sure our daughters' names are known, making sure their stories are told truthfully, making sure they're not just seen as victims. They were people, brilliant people, beautiful people, successful people, loved people. They had dreams, they had futures, they had value. Patrick's hand found Jamal's, squeezed tight. Brothers, my wife died, never knowing what happened to our daughter. That pain will never fully leave me. I'll carry it until the day I die. But I have my brother back. I have this community. I have these families. And I have this garden. He looked around at the transformed property. This isn't Caldwell's collection anymore. This is our garden now. Sacred ground, where our daughters are honored. Where they're remembered properly. Where they're celebrated for who they were, not how they died. Tears ran down his face. My daughter Kiara would be 50 years old this year. I think about that a lot. What she'd be doing. Whether she'd have gotten married. Whether I'd be a grandfather. What kind of life she would have built with all her dreams and ambitions. But she doesn't get that life. None of these 12 women do. Because a monster took that from them. Stole their futures, stole their dreams, stole decades of life they should have had. Patrick's voice rose. But we can make sure they're not forgotten. We can make sure their legacy is love, community, justice, change. We can make sure that other families don't suffer what we suffered, that other daughters are protected better, that the system does better, that Black women's lives are valued, that their disappearances are taken seriously, that cases don't go cold because investigators don't care enough. The families moved closer, circling the monuments, holding hands, united. One by one, they read the names aloud, each family speaking their daughter's name, claiming space, demanding remembrance. Maya Johnson, Alexis Porter, Sasha Edwards, Brittany Lewis, Tiana Harris, Kenya Robinson, Jasmine Mitchell, Nia Foster, Zoe Patterson, Tiara Washington, India Jackson, Kiara Thompson. 12 names, 12 lives, 12 families united by tragedy but choosing love over hatred, choosing healing over destruction, choosing memory over forgetting. After everyone else left, Patrick and Jamal stood alone at Kiara's monument. Patrick placed fresh yellow roses at the base, touched the engraved letters of her name, traced them with his fingers like he'd done every Sunday for 5 years. "Thank you for finding her," Patrick said quietly to Jamal. Jamal's throat tightened. "I wish I'd found her sooner. Wish I'd somehow known in 2010 when I worked here before. Wish I'd—" "Stop," Patrick interrupted gently. "You found her when you were meant to. And you brought me back to life in the process. We lost Kiara, lost my wife, lost 17 years of not knowing. But I got my brother back. We found each other again. That doesn't make it better, doesn't fix the pain, but it makes it bearable." They stood together, brothers, 14 years apart in age, but connected by blood, by tragedy, by love, by shared mission. The afternoon sun filtered through the oak trees. Spanish moss swayed in the breeze. Somewhere nearby, birds sang, life continuing, the world moving forward. The garden that had once been Preston Caldwell's chamber of secrets was now a place of peace, of remembrance, of healing, of community. 12 women would never be forgotten. Their names were carved in stone. Their stories were told. Their families were united. Their memories were honored. Justice was incomplete. The man who took them had escaped punishment through death. His accomplice would eventually be released from prison. Nothing would ever make it right. But the families had each other, had this memorial, had answers after years of agonizing questions, had the truth after years of lies, had closure after years of searching. Patrick and Jamal walked slowly through the garden one more time, reading each monument, each name, each story. 12 brilliant women whose lives were cut short, 12 families who refused to let them be forgotten. As they reached the garden gate, Patrick stopped, looked back one more time at the monuments, at Kiara's monument, at the yellow roses he'd placed there. "She's at peace now," he said softly. "They all are. Finally at peace." Jamal nodded, throat too tight to speak. "And so are we," Patrick added. "Finally starting to be at peace. Not completely, maybe never completely, but getting there, together." They walked to Patrick's truck together. Brothers, survivors, warriors for justice and memory. The fight continued. Missing persons cases, families searching, cold cases needing attention, reforms needing implementation, systems needing change. But today, they'd honored their daughters, remembered them, celebrated who they were, stood with other families doing the same. Sometimes that's all you can do. Remember, honor, love, fight, keep going. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that has to be enough. The end.